The Phoenix Mercury have fired Vanessa Nygaard, aka Coach Clown. Now, in this video, we're obviously going to focus on this firing, but the other thing I want to take a look at is Sandy Brondello, as she might have had the best breakup of all time. If you don't recall, Brondello and the Mercury agreed to mutually part ways in December of 2021, following the Mercury losing to Chicago in the WNBA Finals. And both parties said all the right things, and not much was said about it, as Brondello was able to land on her feet and get a new job with the New York Liberty. At the time, the Mercury GM, Jim Pittman, issued the following statement saying, "Sincerely grateful for her partnership and friendship, the organization is confident a new voice is necessary for our team at this time." And eventually, they decided on a new voice, which was Vanessa Nygaard. Now, they hired her late, and you'll see in the reports today outlining how Nygaard was hindered by the whole Brittney Griner situation. I mean, I think I was watching the Mystics play today against the Liberty, and they sort of outlined that and insinuated, poor Vanessa Nygaard, she didn't really get a great opportunity, as circumstance sort of hindered her with Griner being detained overseas, and then this year with all the injuries, and as well Skylar Diggins-Smith being out due to maternity leave, which is all very true. But what's also true is Nygaard had a hot mess, and she did not really do anything to improve it. She added, oftentimes, fuel to the fire. In doing some research for this, I took a look at an old article after Brondello wasn't brought back, and that article mentions about how the 2021 Mercury started out slow, going 7-9, and then they got hammered by the Minnesota Lynx by 31 points. And what she did after that is she had a 4th of July pool party at her house, bringing all the players. And she was really big on team culture. As she outlined in the article, the team was really, really quiet. And that's when I get nervous, when the locker room is quiet, as I want a noisy locker room and players sort of bantering back and forth. And sure enough, they recovered that season and made it into the finals, where they lost to the Chicago Sky. And if you look at it, I understand the Mercury's frustration with her, as she at times isn't the greatest coaching tactician. I would pick James Wade over her, and that's one of the concerns I do have for the New York Liberty moving forward when they get into the finals against the Las Vegas Aces, as I think the Aces will have a supreme advantage with Becky Hammon. But the one thing that you can say with Brondello is she can talk and work with players, and she is tough as nails, and the players know it, and she doesn't take a backward step. Again, another side note here, Andrew Bogut on his podcast, I can't find the exact one, but I remember him talking about how when the Boomers and the Opals were out, like at some function, and they went out to a bar afterwards, like both teams, there was a fight or reported fight, and Brondello did not take a backward step. Now, allegedly, I can't find the podcast, I can't prove it, but Bogut reports a story, and he said alleged as well, that Brondello got her nose broken, and basically she went to the curb, sat down, and just cracked it right back into place. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but he said Brondello is tough as nails, and everybody loved her. Back to Nygaard. As mentioned, she started behind the 8 ball, as she was a late pick to coach the Mercury, and then she did not have one of their best players, obviously, with Brittney Griner being detained. And then Skylar Diggins-Smith and Taurasi got into it on the sidelines, and that's where things truly went to hell, as they never seemed to mend the fence. There was no brokering of the peace, as Diggins-Smith sent out some sub-tweets, and from there, it was just radio silence. As well, Nygaard seemed to take sides almost in her unrelenting support of Taurasi. Like, she would go to press conferences and say, anybody that says Diana Taurasi's not great at defense, they're wrong. They have no idea about the game of basketball when everybody knows her defense is terrible. I mean, even Taurasi admits that. And then the other one was when the All-Star selections were made, Nygaard came out and said, hey, if Diana Taurasi's not in the All-Star game, then it's not an All-Star game, knowing full well that Diggins Smith had been selected to it. So Diggins Smith then tweeted passive-aggressively, because that's her MO. She tweeted out a clown emoji, and then for there we had Coach Clown, and it never really improved. Later in the season, Diggins Smith is frustrated playing against New York. I think it was New York Liberty. Gets quite frustrated and starts yelling out loud for the coach to take her out. And it was just all downhill from there on. Didn't have Taurasi in the playoffs as she was injured. The only person they had, the only bright spot was Sophie Cunningham, and they just got drilled by the Aces in the first round. Brondello, on the other hand, went to New York, made the playoffs, had a good showing against Chicago Sky. They still lost, but that was fine because it was all about the offseason, which they won as they landed Jones, Vandersloot to go along with Ionescu, and as well, they got Stewie. So essentially, Brondello upgraded from a big 3 to a big 4, so she's very happy. But the Mercury had an offseason as well, and thankfully they got BG back. It's good that she's out of detainment, and everything's happy with that. As well, the Mercury made some other news. So this is what they wound up doing. They signed Diana Taurasi, the oldest player in the WNBA, as Sue Bird retired, to a near max contract, around $220. That was high, around $228 or something like that per year for the next 2 years. As well, they weren't done. They were desperate to bring back Sophie Monk, who, funny enough, is on the Phoenix Mercury broadcast team. And sure enough, to make this work, they traded Diamond DeShields to Dallas as part of a 3-team trade that involved New York as well. So, in this trade, the Phoenix unbelievably gave up a pick swap in 2025 to New York. So, Brondello has a big 4, but not only that, she might get a lottery pick in 2025 via the Mercury, who, looking at how things are right now with an old Taurasi on a near max contract, they are a mess. They could get a lottery pick as well to go along with Stewie and everything else they have. It is unbelievable. Jim Pittman, you need to worry about your job as well with your new owner, because trying to explain this to him on what the hell you did will not be easy. As well, you still haven't solved the Skylar Diggins Smith problem. I assume that she will just remain on maternity leave for the rest of the year, and then will leave via free agency, which they will not mind. But Mercury need players, and did I mention in 25? That draft might be pretty good. You could have Paige Beckers in there. You could have Caitlin Clark. There are a few others as well. So not the draft that you want to have to swap out of the lottery with. So yes, I think Brondello has won this breakup truly. The only worry for her is if the Liberty lose in the final to the Aces or get blown out pretty bad, then she could face the same fate in New York that she faced with the Phoenix Mercury. Anyway, would like your comments below. Am I being too harsh? Give me your poison. Or do you agree that the Mercury are a tire fire? Thanks a lot for watching. Good night.